Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been a minute. It's been a while since I posted a podcast, and I apologize for that. And before we even get into this episode, I just want to talk about the future podcasts coming. So if you've noticed, I started a YouTube channel for the podcast, the Chase Summit Trail Talk Podcast YouTube channel. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure to go over to YouTube and subscribe over there because that really helps me out. You can see the video versions as well as the audio versions. With that said, it turns out that video podcasts are a lot more work than audio podcasts. I've got to edit them. I add my graphics and my music, and yeah, I probably don't have to do all that, but you know me, I take pride in this stuff. So producing the video version of the podcast is very time consuming. So moving forward, I'm not getting rid of the video podcast at all, but what I will be doing is kind of a mix of both. So there will be audio only podcasts, there will be video only podcasts on YouTube, and kind of maybe some weeks when I have more time, I'll do the video. And when I don't, I'll just sit down and do the audio because audio is way easier. With all that said, the point I'm trying to make here is that if you are a YouTube subscriber and you're watching this right now, make sure to follow me on your favorite podcast platform of choice, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, even though that's getting canceled. You get my drift here. Just about anything out there you can find the podcast on. Follow me there for the audio versions. And of course, if you're an audio only listener, make sure to make your way over to YouTube where you can subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel and follow me there as well. Follow me in both places so you get all the episodes, because if you don't, you might get the audio version or the video version and not both. Okay? Does that make sense? So moving forward, I'm going to try to crank out more podcasts. They will still be quality podcasts. I don't like to use the word crank out because that implies rushing through something, which is basically my entire life. But I just wanted to make you aware that more will be coming, and it's going to be on a variety of different platforms. It could be video, it could be audio. Okay? Now that we've got that out of the way, let's move into episode 58, I think. Yep, episode 58 of the podcast. So today we'll be talking about a few different things. We're going to talk about what's been going on with me lately, with my training, with life, with family and craziness. We'll also be talking about some outdoor and fitness tech news that's been happening lately, some really interesting stuff hitting the market, and we will also be checking in with my wife. She'll be joining me for a brief segment where she wanted to talk about an app that she's been using for training for a marathon. She recently ran a marathon. Congrats to Jenn. She finished the marathon a couple of weeks ago. And leading up to the race, she relied entirely, her entire training plan was from an app on her phone. And it worked out pretty well, but there were some limitations. So we just sit down and we discussed the whole thing in sort of a separate segment that I will cut into this episode as well. And then at the end of this podcast, I will be taking some listener Q&A that I collected from over on the Instagram channel. Okay. I also want to give a big shout out to the Patreon members and YouTube members. If you follow me over there, I really appreciate it. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a way to contribute a couple of bucks every month to keep the podcast going. You can find the link over to Patreon at the bottom of my show notes. And I'm going to be trying to publish more there as well. It's like a separate social media platform. Right now, it's really just a way to donate to help me keep doing this thing. But eventually it will become another outlet where I will be posting separate stuff. But I'm still working on what that's going to look like. I'm just winging it, man. I'm a one-man show, so I'm trying to figure it all out. And I also want to give a big shout out to the merch store. So right now, I'm filming this 2 days before Black Friday. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Black Friday means sales, right? So over on the merch store, you can use discount code BFCTS25. That's for Black Friday, Chase the Summit 25, but it's spelled BFCTS25. And that will give you 25% off your entire order over on the merch store. That's the biggest discount I've ever done on the merch store. I'm probably losing money, but it would be cool to be shipping out some orders and get some trucker hats and t-shirts out there. And even, look at that, I'm wearing the merch right now. This is one of the oldest Chase the Summit sweatshirts in existence. It's pretty ratty looking, but I actually like that it's kind of ratty looking. They're a little better now. But yeah, so if you've been thinking about getting merch, now's the time. That 25% off will be active probably until a little after Cyber Monday. Then I'll turn it off so I stop losing money. On the topic of Black Friday, man, there's a lot of sales going on right now. And if you haven't checked out the main YouTube channel yet and you're interested in some of the sports and wellness stuff that's going on right now in terms of sales, make sure to check out my most recent video because I did a whole kind of breakdown of all the stuff that I found on sale that interests me. And selfishly, it's stuff that interests me, but I have a feeling it would interest you as well. If you're listening or watching this podcast, I talk a lot about GPS watches and earbuds and power banks and Apple products and cameras and all that stuff. And I have all the discounts listed in that video description. So it's a great way to just see, in the list, what's on sale, what's not on sale. And I kind of share my opinions and thoughts in that video as well. So I won't be doing that here, but if you are interested in Black Friday sales, make sure to hop over there and check that out. Okay, that was a lot of lead up. So I've got some notes here. I write notes, but then I never follow them. So I wrote notes to myself here to talk about a 50K coming up. In a couple of weeks, I have a local 50K. This is a race I try to do every year. It's called the Trail Animals Running Club Winter Classic. Takes place in early December. I always put this on the calendar because it's very cheap. It's like $30 to get into. It's a potluck. So I'll be bringing like some Halloween candy to put on the 8 station tables. Everyone contributes. And so it's just like volunteer run, pretty low key, pretty grassroots. And it's on a trail that's only like 15 minutes from home. So very easy to get to, very low pressure for me. And fun fact, it was my first ultra marathon ever back in 2017. That's where I ran my first 50K. So ever since then, I told myself I'll just sign up every year and try to run it. I'm not feeling that great about it, to be honest. Seasonal depression has hit me pretty hard this year. It hits me every year, but for some reason this year, with the time change, it gets dark at 4:30. I feel like right when my day has just begun, like I get the kids on the bus and I finally take a shower and like get ready for my day, like the day's already over. Does that make sense? Because by 2:00, I'm already thinking about 3:00, getting my kids back off the bus. And then by 3:30, the sun's starting to go down. And that's like typically when I start to think about going for my run, because my wife typically takes the early shift. She'll go for the early morning run, and then I'll do the afternoon run. And lately, afternoon means in the dark, even if it's only 4:30, 4:00, it's already dark out here. So I feel like I've just been living in the dark, which is wild because I quit my day job a while back to do this, and I thought I'd have so much more freedom and so much more time on my hands. But I tell you what, I don't. I'm still really busy during the day. So I think I just need to like shift priorities and scheduling around to make it all make more sense. We'll get through it, but the seasonal depression has hit me hard lately. I'm just like, not feeling the motivation, having a hard time getting out of bed, getting the shoes on, getting laced up and ready to go for a run. Still doing it. I'm not like, you shouldn't be concerned about me, but the season change has really hit me hard. And I'm trying to stay optimistic because I actually like the winter. I ski, I ice climb, I like winter hiking, I like snow. It's all pretty. I like the challenges that it offers. But I also really like the summer these days, and I kind of miss going for a run and on a nice sunny hot day. I'm kind of a hot weather runner now. So that's my little, woe is me story. I hope you can relate. And if you can, sorry for that. Hopefully you can find your way out of the darkness as well. I don't know if you've seen the video or not. I'm talking to you like you're a person, but you're really just a camera. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually out in Washington State, which was super cool. So I was invited out by a company called Goldwyn. And if you're living in the US, you probably don't know who they are. They're essentially a apparel company. They make jackets, socks, running shorts, tights, you name it, they basically make it. And fun fact, they're actually like the parent company to North Face, the big brand in the US called the North Face. And so they're trying to make a presence in the USA. So they invited myself and a few other people from the media. There were a couple of writers there from magazines, and then me, a YouTuber. But I said yes anyways, because I'll take a trip to Washington State anytime, and I've never actually been there. And fun fact, the Chase the Summit YouTube channel was actually named Chase the Summit after the mountain in Washington State called Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier has always been like a bucket list item for me to go and climb, or at least see it. I've never actually been there to see it, so it was pretty exciting for me to fly out there and get to check it out in person. Of course, I didn't get to climb Mount Rainier. That's a huge endeavor. It's a big mountain. You need to like camp out on it. You need to have glacier skills and all that stuff. I wasn't really signed up for this trip. This was really just for a media event, some trail running, but it was still cool to be in the area and sort of get a vibe for the Mount Rainier National Forest, which is a beautiful area. It's a very wet, very lush area, but beautiful nonetheless. So I flew into Seattle and I hung out with people from the Goldwyn PR team. And what was really cool is I actually got to hang out with one of their sponsored athletes as well. And that sponsored athlete was Dylan Bowman. So Dylan Bowman, if you're a trail runner in the United States, you definitely know who he is. He's everywhere right now. He's essentially the spokesperson for trail running in the United States. He hosts a podcast called Freetrail. He also has a training plan behind that Freetrail brand where they have like a training platform. He has a couple of other podcasts, and he has sort of a media presence on YouTube as well, where they do like documentary style stuff. And on top of all that, he is a professional athlete. He's a runner for Goldwyn. I was only there for like a day, but it was cool to meet the people out there, get to meet Dylan and his media partner, Ryan Thrower, who's kind of like his camera guy doing the editing stuff and partner in Freetrail. And it was just a fun experience overall. Very tiring because there was so much travel. I live in Boston, or the Boston area. Washington is on the literal opposite side of the country from where I am. So it was like a 6.5 hour flight to get there for basically just one day of activities and then turning around and doing it all over again. So it was kind of a trip, but it was still fun. And yeah, check out the vlog if you want to see more on that. With that, that's sort of the end of the banter. I'm getting better at segmenting these podcasts. So there's sort of the intro, the banter, and I'm just talking to myself here. So I'm trying to make it more structured so you, the listener, don't get annoyed by me. Let's move into some of the news. First up, I've got some news from the ultra running world or trail running world, which I found interesting. If you're not a trail or ultra runner, stay tuned because it's still kind of interesting, even if you're not. The first bit I have here is from The Guardian magazine. So apparently a British ultra runner named Josiah, it's a woman named Josiah Zakrzewski, I can't say it, Zakrzewski. You do with that what you will. Apparently this woman admitted to getting in her friend's vehicle, in her friend's car, for 4 kilometers of an ultra marathon, essentially cheating at this ultra marathon. And she said she did this because she had an injury in her leg or something. She couldn't move anymore, so she got in the car. They drove 4 kilometers. She got out of the car, and then she finished the race, ? And not only did she finish the race, from what I understand here, she actually won the race. The woman that did this was basically caught in the act. They saw her Strava data or whatever, assumed that she was in a vehicle. She admitted to it. And then after, she said, whoa, I didn't do it on purpose. I was injured, and so I had to get in the car. And then when she was asked why did she, take the win, essentially, she said she was jet lagged so much that she was so out of it that she just took the trophy and got on the podium and won the race, which is kind of a weird way to react to it. In either case, the race commission didn't accept that. They basically accused her of cheating, and it seems like she did cheat. And they've also banned her from competing in any ultramarathon, competing at a competition level, like winning a race, for the next 12 months in that region, which I found kind of interesting because I think if that happened here in the US, in the community of trail runners we have, she probably would have been exiled here for all eternity, especially if she admitted to actually cheating. But that's not the case here. 12-month ban, and then she can race again after that. And I'm wondering how you feel about this. I don't know what to make of it. This was just like a quick read I saw. I just found it kind of interesting. I thought I'd open the conversation here. So if you're watching this on YouTube, drop into the comments down below and let me know what you think of Joacia Zakras, and whether or not you think she should be accused or not accused of cheating. Next bit of news in trail and ultra running. Charlie Lawrence, an American, just set a new world record for the 50-mile distance. Get this, 4 hours and 48 minutes and 21 seconds. That's insanely fast. 5 minutes and 46 average pace for 50 miles. That's crazy. I can't even run a marathon. I could probably run a marathon in 4:48, but like that's the speed at which a lot of people do run marathons, and that is insane. So this guy was cruising. He attributes his success to his fueling strategy, which included some ketone, that ketone IQ drink. He was drinking those, energy gels, and that was kind of it. But what's interesting about this? There's some pictures on Outside Magazine's website, and he looks fresh out of the gate. He doesn't look wiped out at all. He's not like hunched over at the finish line. He's looking pretty chill after just setting a 50-mile world record. So congrats, Charlie Lawrence. That is a wild accomplishment. And we'll see how long that stands for. 4 hours and 48 minutes is going to be tough to beat. Final bit of news in the trail and ultra running community here. Tom Evans. So if you're a U.S. ultra runner, or any ultra runner for that matter, and you know the race, the Western States 100, which is kind of the Super Bowl of ultra running here in America, Tom Evans won this past 2023 Western States, came in first place. Really incredible run, incredible athlete, and it was fun to watch him at Western States. So he was out in South Africa, and he was prepared to run the Cape Town Ultra Marathon out there in South Africa, which is a UTMB sanctioned event. And he got mugged before he could run the race. So leading up to the race, he was in the area. He was out on a training run, out running by himself on the trails. He was approached by two men who pulled out a knife on him. He was held at knife point and he was robbed. And they took all of his money, all of his things, and then they beat him up, I guess, and left him there. So after that, Tom he posted a video on social media basically stating what happened, and also that he wasn't going to be participating in the Cape Town Ultra Marathon simply because of, it seemed like physically he was a little beat up, but also mentally he just wasn't there. He said something like he was so upset because he was doing something he loved, and then, in the middle of that, he's held at knife point and robbed essentially. And he seemed like he got pretty frazzled over the whole situation, and rightfully so. What an awful thing. I mean, you're out there doing something healthy for yourself out on a trail run, and you're attacked and beat up and robbed on the spot. And for a guy like Tom Evans to be a world-class athlete, to still have that happen to him is a real shame. So that's kind of the end of the trail and ultra running news this week. There's probably a lot more out there, but I'll save that for the next episode. Let's dive into the wearable, health, fitness, outdoorsy type news. I've got a lot here, everything from action cameras to fitness trackers. So let's start here with health rings. If you can see me on YouTube right now, I'm doing jazz hands because I have 3 different fitness trackers on my hands right now. Actually, I have 5 if you include my watches. I'm wearing what's this one? Oh yeah, the Ultrahuman, nope. That's the Oura Ring Horizon there on my pinky. I've got the Ultrahuman Ring Air on my index finger, and then I've got the Ringconn smart ring here. I've also got a Whoop band on, and of course a Garmin Forerunner 965. And this is all for a video I'm working on coming up, just comparing all of the wellness metrics that we get from all of these different things, because there's so many rings out there now. They seem to be exploding, more and more coming to market. Things like the Oura Ring becoming available at like Best Buy stores has just made them way more prominent. It's not so much a niche anymore. To find someone with an Oura ring, they became very popular very quickly. So there's a new player in the market called the Omate ring. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, if it's Omate or Omate. That seems to look exactly like an Oura ring. The app experience looks a lot like an Oura ring. I haven't tried it out yet, but I definitely want to check that out. And this is really very early days for the Omate ring. But another smart ring that really caught my interest was the circular ring. So I've already reviewed the circular ring. That's the brand, by the way, circular, not just the shape of the ring, obviously. So circular's been around for a couple of years. I think back in 2021, I reviewed the original circular ring, and I didn't love it because the build quality was kind of weird. It felt like it was almost 3D printed. It was basically like a plastic ring made out of 3D printed material. And then there was like a aluminum shell that you could clip over it to make it look a little bit better. But the whole thing felt a little weird. There was like sharp charging contacts on the inside that irritated my skin. And the overall metrics and information I got from the ring wasn't all that useful. So if you watch my original review on the circular ring, you may notice that it's not overly positive. I was kind of critical, but I think I had to have been because it didn't feel like a product that was ready for market at the time of reviewing it. With all that said, Circular has a new product coming out called the Circular Ring Slim. This time around, it looks much better. Again, I don't have one in hand to talk about it. I will be getting one for the purpose of a review. Hopefully they stepped up the build quality, but by the looks of it on their website, it looks to be all one piece of material, which is good. Hopefully it's metal in some areas, but right now it's like 3D renderings and not a ton of information. And it's much thinner. So the original circular ring was very bulky and thick because they had to jam all the sensors and batteries and stuff in there. And now they found a way to shrink that down like their competition with like the Ultrahuman Ring Air being so thin and portable. It's something you forget about being on your hand. They need to step it up in that department as well. Now, the new Circular Ring Slim is claiming to be on their website the thinnest smart ring available on the market today. And it comes in at $262 here in the USA at the time of filming this podcast. I'm very interested in this. If they can fix a few things like build quality, the charging contacts being not so sharp, and the app experience being way less buggy, this could be a real potential game changer because $260 is on the more affordable side of things when it comes to smart rings. For example, the Ringconn I have here is currently on a Black Friday sale, I think, for like $260. Right now, this is the cheapest. But I would say the Ringconn, again, I haven't reviewed this yet. That's coming soon. But the Ringconn ring, it feels really high quality. Like it's got the build quality there. It's also got a battery case. You can charge it on the go, which is super cool. But it's affordable, $260 for that ring, where like the Oura ring can get up to $450. Plus there's a subscription, which is kind of crazy. But people have come to trust Oura, so they pay it. Anyways, long story short, there's going to be a lot of new smart rings coming to market very soon. I'm excited about it. I'm here for it. I think eventually when the technology can go even further, it could be interesting to see what they can do with like putting a GPS chip in there or even a tiny little display. Oh yeah, and there's another really interesting thing about Circular is that they actually have haptic feedback inside the ring. So there's a vibration motor in there. So if you get a phone notification, it'll actually buzz your ring, which is kind of cool. It's almost like having a smartwatch, but without actually being able to physically see the notification. You just get a buzz on your ring, letting you know you have one. And it can also be used as an alarm clock in the morning if you want it to buzz while it's on your finger to wake you up without waking up the people around you. That's pretty cool. I hope my wife gets one because she wakes me up every day with her alarm clock. Drives me nuts. Okay, so smart rings, lots of them coming. Couple of new ones to market, like the Circular Ring Slim in the Omate. Stay tuned to the main channel for a review coming on that. And the final bit of news that's not fitness tech related, but it is tech related, is a new action camera coming to market, just announced yesterday. This is the Insta360 Ace Pro and Insta360 Ace. Two cameras. The Ace Pro is $449 here in the USA, and the Ace is $379. So the Ace model is basically like a GoPro Hero 12. Essentially, all the specs are very similar to the GoPro Hero 12. However, the Ace Pro has a few more tricks up its sleeve. So for the purpose of this podcast and for your own sanity and saving time, I'm not going to even talk about the standard Ace model, because I'm really only interested in the Ace Pro model because it seems like the biggest game changer in terms of action cameras that we've actually seen in a while. You know, every year there's a new GoPro. It's kind of an iterative update, like the Hero 10 to the Hero 11 to the Hero 12. They're all so similar that it's not like a huge game-changing upgrade when you get a new GoPro. I end up buying the latest and greatest one because I film YouTube videos for a living, but I think for everybody else out there, if you had a GoPro Hero 10, there's not like a huge compelling reason to upgrade to the Hero 12 because image quality-wise and functionality, they're like the same camera. The 12 is better. It's got a few new features, but they're not features everybody notices. Now, what's different about the Insta360 Ace Pro, first of all, shout out to Insta360. For years, they've been putting out cameras, and I like their cameras, but it always felt like the action cameras they make, not the 360 ones, because they make 360 cameras, but the standard action camera style devices that they've come out with were good, but they never felt like a GoPro killer by any means. They never really like had a crazy new feature that made me want to put my GoPro away and only use the Insta360. This Ace Pro, however, is starting to make me think I might be carrying that in my pocket instead of my GoPro. Let's talk about the specs here. Like I said, Ace Pro, $449, Insta360 Ace, $379, so more money for the Ace Pro. It has a 1 over 1.3 inch sensor. Now, if you don't know image sensors, that equates to a much larger sensor than what you'd find in a GoPro, which gives you more information for the image along with bigger photodiodes to collect more light to be better in low light situations. That's very complicated. I know if you're not a camera person, I'm probably losing you right now, and I apologize for that. Long story short, the bigger the imaging sensor is in a camera, the better it is in low light. For example, the camera I'm using to film my podcast right now is a Sony FX3 with a massive imaging sensor, and this camera basically has night vision. In the dark, I can crank up the ISO and see just about anything. It's crazy. So the bigger the sensor, the better at the end of the day. So the low light looks really good. It also has an 8K sensor, which is kind of interesting. It has a clear image zoom, so you can zoom in on your footage without losing detail. It has a new magnetic mount. So the bottom has like a little clip that pops into it and then has GoPro fingers that come off of that. And it's got a big flippy screen that flips off the back of it. So 2.4 inch display that you can kind of flip forward to use as a vlogging screen. But the most interesting part of this is the new 5 nanometer chip that they put in, the new computer essentially that's inside the camera, because this allows you to kind of access some AI features. I'm not sure exactly what AI they're using here, or if they're just using it for buzzwords for PR and marketing, and it's just kind of basic stuff. But from what I'm seeing, that new computer inside the camera can use AI to reduce noise in low light shots when it's dark out or sunset. And the results I'm seeing on YouTube and some of the reviews that have come out so far are really good, like really mind-blowing. Now, I've got some questions. Like, first of all, on the Insta360 website, they advertise that the sensor is 8K, but in real practical use, every reviewer I've seen so far can't access 8K. It seems like it's a locked feature for now, and they're still working it out. So hopefully they roll that out before production units ship. I am really curious to see how the stabilization works compares to GoPro, because GoPro, I think, has the best stabilization. But when it gets dark, the stabilization on GoPro does get a little bit wonky and smudgy. And I end up like using my phone a lot of times because my phone does a better job in the dark than the GoPro. But it seems like this new Insta360 Ace Pro will actually outperform maybe even an iPhone 15 in the dark because of that, some of that new AI stuff. So this is super interesting. I've gone ahead and ordered one already. I ordered the Ace Pro with the endurance kit, they call it. It's like $550. Comes with an extra battery and a charging hub to charge multiple batteries, plus the camera, plus an SD card. Probably throw that in for free. But I'm very interested to check it out in person. So stay tuned to the main channel because I'll probably have a full review in the very near future. And with that kind of brings us to the end of the news segment of this podcast. We talked everything from Tom Evans getting assaulted and robbed to people cheating at ultras. And now we talked about action cameras. Let's just put a bow on it and end it there. Let's dive into the segment with Jenn and myself. My wife, Jenn, has been training for not for an ultra marathon, but for a marathon. She had a goal. She had a goal to run a marathon in sub 4 hours. And to achieve that, she wanted to hire a coach. However, if you're a runner and you've tried to hire a coach, you know that's very expensive and they're kind of hard to find for a good one. So what Jenn did is she went online, she did some research, she found an app. This app is called Run with Hal, and it's designed after basically an iconic coach named Hal Higdon, who has designed several marathon training plans and they took all of that data, all of his training plans, and morphed it into an app. Now, within this Run with Hal app, you can essentially set it up for various distances from 5K all the way up to ultra marathon, I believe. And after you do that, it'll ask some questions like your goals. Do you have a goal time? How long do you have to train? How many weeks are you going to be training for? And then it'll ask you your intensity and, all that stuff, and kind of build you a custom training plan based on your needs and your current fitness level, which is super cool. So when Jenn first started using this, I thought, I'm going to watch her use it. And I think it worked out well for her. I've watched her. She did 16 weeks of training with it. The app, I think, performed well for her, but she did have some kind of things she didn't love about it. So moral of the story is I thought it would be fun to sit down with Jenn on this podcast and talk about it. So I'm going to insert a segment here of Jenn and myself talking about the Run with Hal app. And then after that segment's over, we'll jump back and I'll pick up at listener Q&A from all the people on Instagram. So if you're interested in hearing about that, stay tuned. So here's my wife, Jenn Dillon, and myself talking about the Run with Hal app. Hello, Jennifer Dillon, if that is your real name. Is that your real name?
This is how you really started?
Hello, Jenn. Welcome to the show. We're on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is awkward because we have about 30 minutes before the bus shows up and we need to
21.
Sprint down the street to get our kids off the bus. But for now, we are alone. Quick side note, we just finished shampooing our carpets. What'd you think of that?
So satisfying.
This is what we do when our kids take a nap. We unbox our brand new carpet cleaner and just have a good old time shampooing our rugs.
It was a good time.
Yeah. The reason why I have you here is because we're going to talk about your experience with the Run with Hal app, right? Do you have a lot to say about that?
I could talk a lot about it.
Okay. So Jenn, I think we talked about this. Did we talk about your marathon on the podcast before, last time you were on?
I don't think so. I don't think I've done this with you in a while.
Yeah. Last time I had a broken toe last time, I think.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago.
A while ago.
So Jenn ran a marathon, early October?
Yep, October 22nd.
I was there at the finish line with our children to cheer her in. It's very exciting.
Thank you for showing up
I won't spoil the whole your whole experience because we'll talk about that in a little if we have time for it. But leading up to that race, Jenn used an app called the Run with Hal app. Mm-hmm. And you used this for how long?
I used it for a 16-week marathon training plan. Started at the end of June.
And did you miss any runs?
I missed no runs. I was very lucky. I mean, I never got sick. Nothing ever came up. And I was very dedicated to doing it exactly as planned because I myself was curious to see if I was going to, run my goal race.
I can testify to that because there were days where you had to do like a 20-mile run. And I remember that fondly.
Yeah, there was 3 20-mile runs in September. But I didn't miss anything. And also I don't know if you were going to talk about how you can pay for it or it can be free, but
we'll get there.
Okay, well.
Yeah. So let's start there. The way this works, there's a free option, right? Is there a free option in the app?
Yep, it's free. But I immediately signed up for the paid version, so I can't talk too much about what the free one is like because the thing that sold me immediately was the blackout dates. If you pay, you can do blackout dates in your training plan. And we had some vacations coming up and I wanted to train, have my plan go around that. So that was valuable.
So for pricing, just to get that out there, if anyone's interested in this, we're looking at, you can pay by month for $7 a month. You can do a 6-month plan for $35 up front, or you can do a full year for $59. What did you do?
I just did the $8 a month.
It says 7 here. Am I wrong?
Sorry. No. It was 7.
Okay.
It was $6.99. You're right. Sorry. $6.99.
And there was no trial or anything? You basically had to decide on day one?
I don't remember.
I didn't do any research.
I don't think.
On it, so
I think it was.
Have to tell me.
I think I just went right away into paying $6.99. I could be wrong. It was a while ago that I signed up, but definitely I've been paying for it.
So the advertisement here says GPS workout tracking, personalize your training plan, personalize your plan with blackout dates, which you just mentioned, personalize your plan by having your workout pace scaled on a normal quote unquote pace to recent race results. Keep track of 5K and 50K personal records. I guess let's start with the setup process. How painful was this to get up and running?
Super easy.
But you had some issues with the Garmin stuff because you ran to me for that. You're asking me questions about that.
So, the setup was very easy and very user-friendly. And you know me, I'm not really good with technology. And I figured it out very easy. My kind of pains with it was, so first of all, I didn't realize you can only sync it to Garmin. I found this out, you told me that. And then my friend knew I was using the app and she started, but she has an Apple Watch. So it was a little bit more difficult for her, but she still used it and she was still fine with it.
Do you know if there's an app for the Apple Watch for it? Like a Run with Hal app she could start on her watch?
I'm not sure. But I know it would sync my Garmin runs. But the annoying thing was it would give me my workouts and I couldn't sync. It would take my Garmin information, but it couldn't give Garmin the Hal information. It couldn't send my workouts to Garmin. So I was manually inputting them, which I know you mentioned there might be an app to change that. I guess I was too lazy to look into that.
For anyone interested out there, my thought was that you could use Training Peaks as a bridge to basically bring the workout plan into Training Peaks and then have Training Peaks export that or sync it over to Garmin
So I
Connect.
definitely want to research that and actually figure out that because it was kind of a pain to do it's only 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to put your workouts into Garmin and I'm going back and forth, copying it from the app into Garmin. So that was kind of annoying. So I think I came to you for that because originally I thought it would just send my workouts to Garmin, which it didn't. So
that would be cool. It's too bad they didn't have that set up.
Right. But it does take your workout from Garmin. But a couple annoying things about it is it takes it from Garmin, but it doesn't account for certain things like the weather, if it was hot or humid, elevation, it doesn't account for elevation, which seems crazy because it tells you to run a certain pace, but then you sync your workout and you didn't tell it that you maybe were on a bunch of hills that day. So
if there's no elevation input, maybe they assume every run's on a track.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're doing a 20-mile run, obviously you're not going to do that on a track.
I don't know, but I know it didn't account for elevation. It didn't account for the humidity, the weather, all stuff that I guess that would be a little bit more complicated. So if you were I had this thought, if you were choosing between an app and a run coach, those are all things that obviously, a run coach would be, know about. There was a couple workouts that would say hill repeats and it would be go to that hill, but it would have me running 400s or 800s at a 5K pace. And I'm and I would show up at the giant hill and be well, I can't run a 5K pace up this hill. It was a little confusing because I was well, what does this mean? Because it doesn't specify what your elevation should be.
Yeah.
And then, likewise, when you input the run, it doesn't know your elevation. So
basically the way you did this was pretty manual, right? So you'd get the workout in your app, it would spit out all the things, and then you take that and manually build that in Garmin Connect so you could start it on your watch.
And then it would just sync right back to Hal. But it would know my pace and, my time and my distance, but that was it. And then you manually put in your effort, how fatigued you were and, how easy or hard you felt it was. And then it would take that information. And I know the paid version, I don't know if it does this on the free version, but I think the paid version would customize that. If I had like a 10, like that was the hardest run ever, I felt awful, then it might like change some of the workouts after that based on, you know, your previous runs and how destroyed you were after, I guess. I don't know. So sense. I liked that a lot. Although towards the end, towards the peak, there was some like days that I was really struggling and I put it in there and it didn't change anything. I was like, darn.
So it's supposed to automatically adjust. Like if you had a rough run on Wednesday and you put in your perceived effort as high and fatigue high or whatever.
Yeah, it might like change your next run to
so
like
if you had a long run Saturday,
run
it might like tweak that into like a 10-mile run instead of a 20-mile run or something.
Right. But well, so you can pick which day or days you want a long run, which days you can just run, and which days you don't want to run. So my long runs were always on Saturday.
To jump back to the setup process, what distances does it cover? Does it do like 5K too? Or for you, you're training for a marathon?
Oh, yeah. You can put in 5K and you can, like, I had like this is another annoying thing, but I had a 5K during that time. And so I put it in as a race, but I didn't want to race it because that was the one we were doing with our 10-year-old. So I wanted to run it slow with him, and it basically gave me a bad score because it wanted me to run up, my 5K pace for that.
Your 5K was 42 minutes long.
Yeah.
The 10-year-old finished the 5K though.
So there's a couple other, little things. Like you can do the blackout dates, which is great, but then you also can't like go in and say like, well, Wednesday I only have, 40 minutes instead. Like you can't tell it how much time you have each day, which would be nice.
What about manual customization? Can you like override stuff if they make a suggestion to do this kind of workout?
No, I mean, you can just do it, but then it won't like complete the little circle, or it might give you like a bad grade for that day because you didn't listen to them or whatever.
Yeah. So in terms of customization, like the whole thing is based off your perceived effort and fatigue then? You can't you can't type in, I want to do, hill repeats this day or that day, and it won't like adjust around that.
No, you can just put in what days you want to run and what days you want a long run.
Yeah,
can't really put in like what days you want a hard workout or longer workout or anything like that. But still, it was still a great app, and I found it helped me a ton. So I had put in like originally that my marathon was October 22nd. I wanted to run a sub 4 marathon. I think I put in like 3:55. So for the 16 weeks, it was
shadow on your face. There you go.
So for the 16 weeks, it was, giving me runs based on, hopefully making me that fast in October, because I was not that fast.
So let's go with, let's boil it down to what you liked about it, and then we'll talk about what you didn't like about it.
Okay. Well, what I loved about it is that I had only done one other road marathon, and I had just like a printed thing. It might have even been a Hal. It was just like I was following it and adding miles, but this was the first time I really ever started training like with workouts and learning, what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I think that benefited me. I never did. My easy runs were never really that easy. And I just feel like I learned a lot over the last like year about running. I feel like I never really ran as slow as I should have been running on easy days. I never really pushed as hard, for speed days. I didn't know like how to do workouts. So it taught me a whole lot. So if you're someone like new to running, or I wouldn't say I was new to running, but I never followed.
New to like structured running, structured training plans.
Exactly. So it was exactly what I needed. Again, if I was deciding between like this app and like getting a running coach, I mean, obviously this is only $7 a month.
Yeah.
But there's obviously, benefits to having an actual person and not an app.
I'd actually like to see how this compares to something like Garmin Coach with their like pre-made workouts, but I think you looked into it. They didn't have marathon, right?
No, I asked you that. I saw half marathon, but I haven't seen a Garmin Coach. And it was funny because some of the times like during my training, it would be like, you've done too much, or Garmin would be telling me take a rest day or something, but Hal would be telling me, my app would be like, oh, you haven't. And I'm like, oh my God, should I kind of wanted to follow Garmin because I felt like the watch would know me better, based on, but I don't know, who knows. But I did want to try a marathon training on a Garmin app, but I don't know if you can.
So let's go with, we just talked about what you like about it. What you liked was basically the structure nature of it, without
told what to do.
And I'd say it's definitely a leg up compared to just going and downloading a PDF like you find a lot of marathon training plans where it's like week 1 through 16, but it's very generic. It doesn't care about you or your capabilities.
And even if you're following it, you might not push yourself. Like I at the end of the run where I sync it, and it was like, good job. Like I would get an A or whatever. Like that motivated me to do exactly what it was telling me to do and the paces it was telling me to do. Or if I didn't have that kind of that satisfaction of like, you're doing great. You're following your training plan. Like a piece of paper that you printed isn't telling you that.
Yeah.
So
you like the structured nature of it. You liked the adaptability. For the most part, you think that the way it adapted to your, when you had a bad run, it would kind of pick up on that, except for a few exceptions.
Yeah.
And then you liked the outcome, I guess. Would you say it worked?
I mean, I definitely
You never really trained for a marathon before? Well, you did, but never in this fashion where you were doing like structured runs.
Right.
The first time you ran a marathon, it was more like straight up volume, right? Just like high mileage.
Yeah,
weeks.
I was just trying to survive. Yeah. This time I was like trying to go for a time. But it definitely made me so much faster, and I think I'm definitely capable. I didn't make, spoiler alert, run.
We're going to talk about the race in a minute. We're going to get there.
Well, I think I just spoiled it.
Shh. So before we get there, let's talk about what you didn't like. We just talked about the good stuff. If you were the app designer and you could go in and change anything about the app,
well, the first thing I would say is put in something about elevation. That seems kind of ridiculous to not have that. Or, weather, just different situations.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very tired. I mean, I guess you put in your fatigue, but it's just like, it's just not super personalized, even though it does kind of customize based on your previous runs.
Yeah.
But
weather would be cool.
It's missing a lot. I trained some of those long runs on extremely humid days. So I was not going the pace it was telling me to, but I was still running a great pace. I felt like for the weather I was training in, but the app doesn't know that.
Yeah, change that. What about the way it connects with your watch? Would you?
And I wish the workouts could go right to Garmin. And then I wish I could put in like certain days how much time I have to work out instead of just I can run this day, because you can't always. Some of the weekday mornings would have me doing 10 miles, and a couple of times I was getting up real early. I think a couple of times I got up at like 4:15 a.m. to get the runs in.
How about the price? Do you feel like it's fair? You're still paying for it, still using it? So I'd probably say,
well, I had planned on canceling after my marathon, but then it was like, would you like a recovery plan? And I was like, oh,
smart.
Yes, I would.
That's how they hook you.
Exactly, because I was right about to be like, oh, I'll cancel this, and now I'm doing the recovery plan.
So that's the app in a nutshell. Like I said, we're limited on time, but I did want to talk about the marathon too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you had some goals. So share, what was your A goal for this race?
My goal was a sub 4.
Okay.
And I really felt like that was going to be easy. I honestly was like, I'll get like 3:45, maybe better. Like I was overly confident going in.
I was confident for you. I watched the training. I watched how hard you worked, and I was like,
I trained exactly at the paces it told me to. The only things I kind of missed was the 20, it was like 3 20-mile runs that were supposed to be at like 9:15 or something. Or maybe that was an indication that I couldn't hold the pace that I was going for.
So let's recap your race. First, we'll talk about the race was called the Loco Marathon in Newmarket, New Hampshire, right? Mm-hmm. Mainly a road course, not a ton of elevation gain.
No, it was very flat.
And then a couple of miles on a trail, right?
Yeah, the last like 3 miles were trail, but flat trail, except of course it poured the day before, so there was some gnarly mud puddles, but nothing that would really have slowed me down.
I did pressure wash your shoes that day.
I mean, there was some you just couldn't walk, or I had to walk straight through, and it was pretty terrible, but only a few. And
so your miles 1 to 10, you felt pretty good, right?
I felt great. I felt great the first half. So I ran 8:45 for the first 18 miles. The first half, I had like a 5-minute. I finished at 1:55. I had a 5-minute buffer, and I'm like feeling great. I went all the way to mile 18, still under 9. I think the first half. After the first half, I started slowing down to like a 9, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm slowing down a little, but whatever. I still like felt great. Wasn't slowing down that much. I stayed with like the 3:50 pacer for the first half, and I don't know, I felt great. I just thought that I'm probably going off too hard, but I just felt too good to slow down. Maybe that's a mistake that everybody makes.
Classic blow up.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, it's not a classic blow up because it happened pretty late, like 18 miles in. It's
so
pretty far.
I was good. I still had like a 5-minute buffer for like 18 miles. And then 18 miles, I really started, I'm slowing down. And even 18 to 22, I was still doing like a 9:15. And then I hit mile 22 and just completely died. Like the wheels fell off. I just lost all steam, lost everything in like just a matter of like a mile. And I only had 4 miles left. I still had 5. In my head, I'm like, I can run a 10-minute pace and I will still have plenty of time to get to sub 4. And I couldn't even do that. Like, I don't know what happened. So the first aid station comes up and I'm like just speeding through and thinking I'm like some sort of pro runner and I'm like squeezing the cup and I freaking I just like choked, just completely choked on the water.
Yep.
And then spent the next mile coughing, like just trying to cough it up. Well, gotta go in a second. Sorry. By the time I bonked, there was only one water station left and I could feel I was like really thirsty. And so for me to feel thirst, I think that I let it go way too long and I definitely should have drank a lot more. I was so worried about like choking down the goose at the right time and keeping the nutrition perfect that I don't think I was really getting enough fluids. So I think that was a lot of my problem.
It was a straight up bonk because you texted me at mile 22 and you're like, not going to make 4 hours. And we didn't even tell. So what was your time overall?
It was, this is how bad it was. It was 4:12.
Yeah.
And the 4-hour pacer didn't even pass me until like between miles 22 and 23.
Yeah.
And so and like I said,
still
like,
though,
by 18 to 20, I still had a 5-minute buffer for under 4. So I just totally, by the time once the 4-hour pacer passed me, the last 3 miles of the race were kind of the most enjoyable because I felt like the weight was just lifted off my shoulder and I felt like, all right, I'm letting it go. I was like, oh, this is a nice trail. I just like enjoyed it a little more, but I was upset.
Well, there it is, folks. The
gotta go to the bus.
Run with Hal App
I'm gonna be
review.
running to the bus right now.
And Run with Hal app review and Loco Marathon recap. I think you did amazing.
Thanks.
Congratulations on your 4 hour and 12 minute
Thanks. I think I'll probably have to go for it again at some point.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that segment with my wife, Jen, and myself. And now it's time that we've all been waiting for, listener Q&A. And if you don't know what listener Q&A is, I think the description of this segment kind of tells the whole story. But if you don't, what I do is before a podcast, before I plan on filming or recording a podcast, I go on Instagram and I post a story with one of those little question boxes. Ask me anything to be featured on my next episode. So I take all the questions that I gather through Instagram and I bring them and I put them on my phone and then I read them off on camera or on the podcast and I react to them in real time with no planning ahead of time, just to get as candid of a response as possible. So none of these are planned out. None of these are pre-screened and there might be duplicates or whatever. And I'll just have to edit that out. So of course, if you want to be involved with this segment and get your question featured on this podcast, stay tuned to my Instagram channel over at Chase the Summit on Instagram and follow my stories. And eventually you'll see one of these pop up where you can ask the question. If you don't want to wait for that, you can go over to chasethesummit.com and just send me an email using the contact form, or just send an email to team@chasethesummit.com and that'll come to us and we'll filter them out and feature you on the next podcast. Let's jump into the first question. This is from Lee N1C. Can you do an in-depth review with work outdoors on the Apple Watch Ultra 2? I could, but I already did that with the Apple Watch Ultra 1 and the Series 8, and the app hasn't really changed since then, so I probably won't re-review it, but I do really like the app and it does work great on the Ultra 2. So if you're planning on buying it, it's like $6. It's kind of a no-brainer. Definitely get it. It makes the watch way more usable. Next question. Torbjorn HB, one of the Patreon members, shout out. He says, just hope you're doing well and your family too. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much. No question there, but I appreciate the sentiment. Next question is from KGT22, Run Living. End result, Garmin Fenix 7 X Pro or Enduro 2 running 100 miles plus. I'm not sure I understand the question. If you're trying to decide between those two, the Fenix 7 Pro or Enduro 2, ask yourself one question. How much do you care about battery life? Both have incredible battery life. The Enduro 2 has the best battery life. The Fenix 7 Pro has good battery life. You'll probably not have to worry about either one at a 100 miler. Like you could probably run a 200 miler with both of them, but the Enduro 2 will definitely give you more battery life. It has a physically larger battery and some special features that are sprinkled in there to maximize the battery life. Next question from Martin P. Barrett. What is your morning routine? Okay, let's go. Let's break it down. I open my eyes roughly at 5 a.m. every day. I probably open my eyes more like at 4:30 a.m. every day because that's when my wife gets up to go for her run in the morning. And I usually wake up to her waking up. Then my daughter will wake up at around 6-ish and I'll go get her. She's 2 years old, so she's in her crib. Then we both go downstairs, her and myself. I make a coffee. I give her a smoothie. And we chill for a little bit before the chaos ensues. And what I mean by chaos is her 3 older brothers waking up in perfect order from youngest to oldest. And to wake them up to get them to school, I have to physically drag them out of bed. It is super fun. So I drag them all out of bed, get them all downstairs, feed them, get them clothed, make them lunches, get their snacks packed, get their school bags ready. And then eventually get them on their way. I walk them to the bus stop. They get on the bus. And then my daughter goes off with her mom to preschool or daycare rather. And then I'm finally alone to do my work. And that's when I either come up here or I go for a run or whatever else I need to do that day. And it's kind of insane. After all that, I forgot I do make my breakfast. I make the same breakfast every day. It's usually like an omelet with hot peppers, mushrooms, very light dusting of cheese, and a wrap or some toast if I'm feeling spicy that day. Too much information? I don't know. What do you think? What's your morning routine? Maybe I should make a video about it. Okay, next question. TH Nell. I'm a dad with 2 toddlers, and I want to do my first ultra of 50K. How do you balance work, kids, and training? I get this question a lot, and I want to make a video about it somehow, but it's a really hard topic to tackle. Basically, because I want to be real about it. Like nothing is pretty about it. Okay. There's a lot of days like this week, I didn't get a lot of running in because I had to do a lot of other stuff with whether that be family stuff or work stuff. There's a lot. And sometimes I have to just admit defeat and know that my week is going to suck. I'm not going to be happy about it. And then I'll have to make up for it later. But I think the best advice I could give you is just come to terms with your reality, where you're at now in your life. I have 4 young kids, and every day it's not going to be the biggest epic journey ever. I'll be lucky if I get 2 miles in on the treadmill today, and I should try to be happy with that. And I don't want to say it's settling. I want to say it's just being okay with your current situation, because being a dad is a hard job and an important role. And it's easy. It happens to me. I get bitter. I get upset at my family for not allowing me to do all the epic things I want to do. And ultimately those take the back burner because they need to. Like dad is more important than dad being on a epic journey. But stay tuned to the main channel. I feel like I want to address this in a more long form video. I'm not a pro at it, to be honest. I'm really bad at balancing my time, but I feel like I do have a lot to say about the topic. So stay tuned to the main channel, and I'll consider doing a video about it. Next question is from Field. Oh, but by the way, good luck. You're doing great. Keep it up. You'll run that ultra. Did that motivate you? Next question is from Feel the Need. If you ever had a bad race, how do you keep motivated to keep training? That's a really tough one too. I've DNF'd a couple of times. I've had bad performances, and I'd be lying if I got home and said that I felt great. I typically go home and feel pretty depressed or bummed about it. I think it fades with time though. I end up getting excited again. If I have a DNF or a bad race, once a couple of weeks go by, I'm excited again to go shopping for another race registration. And I feel like if your excitement doesn't come back, maybe the distance you're going for is something that maybe you shouldn't be going for. Maybe you should cut back and do something that's fun for you. I mean, at the end of the day, unless you're a pro athlete, we're all just doing this for fun. So if it's not fun, don't do it. However, it is healthy. So maybe just find a better activity or a better distance for you specifically. Hopefully that helps. The Wandering Social Worker asks, okay, Dave, round 2. I'm signed up for my first 50K in April. Words of wisdom so I don't die. Wisdom so you don't die. That's just ultra running in a nutshell, I think. I guess the only words of wisdom I'll give you is, I'll give you 3 pieces of advice. Drink early and drink often. Eat early and eat often. And keep moving. Don't sit down. Don't take a break. All those things lead to DNFs. You know, someone sitting down to take a break is the early signs that they're going to drop. And you'll notice that at aid stations, all the volunteers know that. So they're like, try to keep you moving, try to get you in and out very quickly. And so keep moving. Even if it's walking at a very slow pace, as long as there's forward progression, keep it moving. And don't be afraid to walk. I mean, ultra running is walking. It's adventure walking or adventure jogging, I should say. Shout out to my podcast friends over there at the Adventure Jogger. Next question comes from Mario Fig. Fueling and hydrating strategies during races. Please help. This is a very personal, subjective thing. For me, I leverage on electrolyte mixes pretty heavily. I like Tailwind. And sometimes I can run 50K to 50 miles only on Tailwind. But, you know, I know people that need real food early and often, and it really comes down to your physiology. I'd say the best thing you can do is try all different methods, try all different products, go out on a bunch of different long runs, try it all out, make mistakes, learn what works for you, learn what doesn't work for you, and then incorporate that into your race day. That's a big part of what ultramarathon training is. It's learning how to fuel, because let's be honest, we're not running 5-minute miles, and maybe some of you are, but I'm not. And the key to success is really just to keep moving and not getting sick and not bonking. And that all comes down to your nutrition. So lots of practice. I would try all the different things, buy a bunch of different gels and powders, and try real food, try bread, beef jerky, whatever you can try, just to get it out of your system to make sure it doesn't work for you before moving on to the next thing. I mean, that's kind of what I did. It was really trial and error for me. Next question is from Runner King Finn. What would you like to see on the next Enduro 3? Oh, this is the Active Ideas Guy YouTube channel. Enduro 3. I guess I would like to see an AMOLED display, but I don't know how they do that while retaining the crazy long battery life, unless there's like a huge advancement in AMOLED by then. I guess I would just like to see them keep pushing on the battery life. That's what the Enduro is all about. You know, crazy battery life, and it would be cool if somebody could run, you know, across America or something on a single charge. So, but I'll be interested to see what they do. I'd be interested to see if they even continue doing the Enduro, because I feel like that's not a hot seller for them. That's not like a really big sell. It's really only in the niche market of endurance sports like ultra running or triathlon or, you know, whatever else, where it's not a huge sport. So I'm concerned that they might quietly kill it off, but we'll see. Next question is from Luke Taylor. Why would you run 100 miles when you could drive? Funny. That's a question I get all the time from friends and family. And I think every ultra runner gets those questions. You also get the questions, do you eat? Do you sleep? Question mark. You hear those a lot when you say that you're on 100 miles. Next question is from Brian Curry Grayer. Do you have a current shoe rotation? Yes, I do. And I'll direct you over to my YouTube channel where I actually just posted a video about my current shoe rotation. Long story short, there's 4. The Hoka Mafate Speed 4, the Ultra Mont Blanc Boa, the Hoka Mach X, and the Ultra Vanish Carbons. 4 shoes. Although I've got a million pairs of shoes. I've got 10 boxes over here. But those are the ones that typically find their way to my feet most often. Next question is from Derby Red 96. Favorite smartwatch of all time? Favorite is going to be subjective to me. I guess I won't say it's the best smartwatch, but probably my favorite would be, you probably know it if you watch my channel, the Garmin Forerunner 965. I've really grown to like this watch quite a bit. The Forerunner 9XX lineup in general wins me over. I had the 935, the 945, the 945 LTE, the 955, and now the 965. For whatever reason, it just strikes a really good balance of price point to weight, build quality, how small it is, the form factor. All of that kind of rolls into one really good package. It's got full mapping and navigation, and it doesn't break the bank at $500 or $600. Still very expensive, but you get the idea. So that's my favorite right now. I guess which one brings me the most memories would be the Garmin Fenix 3 from many years ago. I had a lot of good memories with the Fenix 3. I ran my first Ultra with the Fenix 3. It was my first watch with a heart rate sensor, so that was kind of interesting. That was kind of like a big game changer at the time. It was totally different from what all the other Garmin offerings. Next question from Map2Heck. Map2Heck? Hopefully I got that. Do you know if running on a treadmill is bad for your body? I don't believe it is, Map2Heck. Why would it be? I'd say it's better for your body probably than running on a road because there's some suspension there and you're not smashing your knees. And I'd say running in general on anything is probably healthier than not running and sitting on the couch. So I'll go with no, but I'm not a scientist. So you might know something I don't. Next question is from JC the Fatty Marathon. This is a really long name, but I kind of want to say it again. JC the Fatty Marathon Beer something. Great name. Can't read the whole thing because it's cut off by my phone. Favorite watch of 2023. Now, did the 965 come out in 2023? I'm not sure. Favorite watch of 2023. I'm going to try to answer this objectively and not with my bias. I think the most exciting watch of 2023 that's come out in a long time was the Suunto Race, because it kind of put Suunto back on the map. It's got an AMOLED display. It's got great features. It's built really well. It's got a sapphire lens, and it's $450, which is kind of a game changer in the landscape of watches like this because it really compares more to a Garmin Fenix 7, which is like $1,000. Suunto drops this bomb at $450. I won't say it's better than a Garmin. I won't say it's the best watch of 2023. What I will say is it's probably the most exciting and game-changing when it comes to the landscape of the market, because it really puts Suunto back on the map as an option at an affordable price point for really good hardware. And that's the end of the questions. Hope that helped. Whoo, I'm losing my voice. I've been talking way too long. This is going to be a really long episode, plus the segment that Jenn and I already filmed. Sorry, you've been listening to my voice for a really long time. But I tell you what, if you enjoyed listening to my voice, I'd really appreciate it if you went and subscribed to the Chase the Summit Trail Talk podcast YouTube channel, because I'm trying to get the subscribers. Can't talk anymore. Trying to get that subscriber count up over 1,000. I think we're at like 850 now. So if you're listening in the audio version, you're watching on YouTube, go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, comment on the YouTube video for the algorithm. Let me know what you want to see in the next podcast. Let me know if you want to see someone interviewed. I'll reach out to them and try to arrange it. Let me know what kind of fitness tech or trail running news you want to hear about. And of course, stay tuned to the Instagram so you can ask your question for the Q&A section for the next podcast. Make sure to check out the Patreon. Consider joining over there. And of course, the merch store, BFCTS25, the discount code at checkout for 25% off your entire order. That works out to like $7 on a trucker hat. It's a pretty good deal. So go over there, buy your trucker hats, buy a sticker, buy a sweatshirt like I'm wearing right now, and support the channel. And we're going to keep trucking, man. We're going to keep doing this podcast. The next one might be audio only. It might be video only, but stay tuned. I've got a lot to come. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.